Jermod McCoy, Chris Brazzell, and Arion Carter have declared for the NFL draft. Two of those, not surprises whatsoever, but how this affects Tennessee moving forward.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. It is a new week, and we got loads and loads of content here for you right here on Locked On Vols, your number one spot for Tennessee football news and entertainment weekday mornings when you wake up, wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day, the number one sports podcasting network available. And I am your host, Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town, covering your Tennessee Volunteers. Loaded show coming up here today, playing catch up on a number of things that we hit on a little bit last week, but it was a very newsworthy week last week, so we're discussing a number of different topics here on Monday's show. We'll finish off this show with discussing some breakout freshmen on the defensive side of the football for Tennessee. We talked offensive breakout freshmen last week. We'll talk defense here today. Segment 2, new contracts for Tennessee's Joey Halzle and Kelsey Pope. What's the assistant contract structure look like right now? Who is on expiring deals? How much is Joey Halzle and Kelsey Pope getting paid? That's coming up here in just a moment. But first, a couple of underclassmen have declared for the NFL draft and how that affects Tennessee moving forward. That's where we're going to start here today on your Monday Locked On Vols. Jermod McCoy, he declared for the NFL draft midway through last week, and that comes as no shock. I mean, Jermod McCoy's been getting some first-round love all offseason, all throughout the season, and then heading into this offseason, despite not playing one snap. Of course, he tore his ACL training back home in Texas. It was early January when that happened, and there was some hope that he would be able to help Tennessee and contribute some. It just ultimately didn't respond the way that he wanted to when he finally got back on the practice field, and it never materialized into him getting back on the game field for Tennessee. But Jermod McCoy still getting some first-round love. We'll discuss kind of where Mel Kiper Jr. has all these Tennessee players on his big board, so that comes as no surprise. Towards the end of last week, it was Chris Brazzell who declared for the NFL draft, and this, again, should come as no surprise, right? Chris Brazzell, he led the SEC in receiving this year. His 9 touchdowns led the SEC in tied for the lead in SEC receiving touchdowns. Again, you want to strike while the iron is hot, and Chris Brazzell had a fantastic year this year for Tennessee, so his declaration for the NFL draft should come as no surprise. On Friday, or was it Thursday, and again, it was late last week, Arion Carter declared for the NFL draft, and this one was one to watch kind of all season long, and I felt like it was almost a slam dunk. Maybe not that much, but I felt like it was more likely to happen than not before the double turf toe really slowed him down this year. He missed a couple of games, and when I say missed a couple of games, he didn't dress. He didn't appear in one game, didn't dress for another game. I mean, again, he was slowed by the double turf toe. I thought that when he came back after he was well rested for the Florida game, he looked pretty explosive, right? But there's no doubt about that. His injuries that kind of plagued him this year really affected his lateral movement. And so that's unfortunate for me because I think that he was much better than what he was able to give Tennessee this year, simply because he was nagged all year long by that double turf toe, and he's so tough and he's such a competitor, and he never wants to come off the field, right? And so it's always a battle there, kind of when you're not 100%, kind of when you step aside. But Arion Carter, despite going through some nagging injuries this year, has declared for the NFL draft. Now, Mel Kiper Jr. updated his big board, and again, this will be a constant offseason thing up until the NFL draft in spring, and he had Jermod McCoy as his number 1 cornerback, despite not playing this year, despite coming off a torn ACL. He has Jermod McCoy as his number 1 cornerback and number 13 overall on his big board. So, I mean, that's pretty good stuff right there, right? You look at Chris Brazzell. Mel Kiper Jr. has Chris Brazzell as his number 7 wide receiver. So he has a big board, and then he's got his top 10 at each position, and Chris Brazzell comes in at number 7 on his list of 10 wide receivers. Arion Carter is not listed in his top 10 linebackers or in the section below where it says just missed out. So I'll be intrigued to see kind of what Arion Carter looks like as this path continues, what his pro day looks like, how he interviews. I'm sure he's going to interview fantastic, but kind of what that feedback is from his medical testing as well. Because again, Arion Carter is not listed in, the big board for Mel Kiper Jr., which is not make or break by any means, but it's kind of a good gauge to kind of see where you are. All right, so what does this impact mean for Tennessee? What's the impact analysis for these three declaring for the NFL draft? Well, Jermod McCoy, it was a given that he was going to go, right? So, and he didn't play this year. So there's no impact based on what Tennessee is going to receive or what Tennessee would have received from him next season in 2026. Chris Brazzell, he had to go off in order to declare for the NFL draft, but after his start to the season, midway through, it was almost a foregone conclusion that this was going to be his last year, his second and his final year in the orange and white. And so to me, based on, I've already been planning on this, and I think the majority of the fan base as well has already been planning on not having Chris Brazzell be in the fold next year. The impact's not that great, in my opinion, because you've already kind of been planning ahead. It also helps that you have Braylon Staley, the reigning SEC Freshman of the Year by both the coaches and the Associated Press. You have Mike Matthews, who has over 700 yards receiving this year. Darius Jackson, Travis Smith, that you like a lot, that were kind of back up on the outside. You're bringing in Tristan Keys. You're bringing in Tyreek King. You're bringing in a lot of players in this class that just signed that you really like. Plus, Darius Jackson, in my opinion, is going to be a really, really good player. So, again, portal's always an option there, but I don't think wide receiver is by any stretch of the imagination a top-tier target in the portal for Tennessee because of the guys you have in the room and because of the production you're bringing back. So, you'd love to have Chris Brazzell, but him declaring for the NFL draft, the impact's minimal for Tennessee because that was already kind of the case. And again, going back to Arion Carter, that was kind of a coin flip here towards the end, in my opinion, because of the injuries that he has sustained and suffered and kind of played through this year. You look at the room now, and again, we'll see what happens during portal season, but Edwin Spillman set to return. Jeremiah Thielander set to return. Those two guys have played a ton. Jaden Perlotte set to return. You think that he would take on a bigger role, and he certainly kind of came into his own here towards the end of the season and certainly has a nose for the football. You've got Jaden Harmon, who saw a little bit of run throughout the year, but was mostly a special teams player. So you got all those guys that are in the room right now. You're expected to bring in TJ White and Braden Rouse, who are two top 100 overall prospects. Could Tennessee go out and sign a player from the transfer portal? I think now that Arion Carter has declared for the NFL draft, I think that's more of a possibility now. How big of a player, I would assume a starter, looking to come in and play immediate rotation reps. We'll see. But I think that's the biggest impact that you're going to see on some of these three guys who have declared for the NFL draft. So Jermod McCoy, middle of last week, declared for the NFL draft. Chris Brazzell and Arion Carter, end of last week, declared for the NFL draft. Again, none of those guys shocking, especially Jermod McCoy and Chris Brazzell, but best of luck to those guys for sure moving forward. Other guys to be on the lookout for who could end up declaring for the NFL draft. Here's the top two. Number one, Colton Hood. Colton Hood had a fantastic year. He's gotten some early round love and some mocks, ESPN most notably as well. What could Colton Hood's NFL draft prospects look like here in the coming days? He has a decision to make. So certainly everybody in orange is watching to see what he elects to do. Will he declare for the NFL draft, or will he elect to come back to Tennessee? If he elects to come back to Tennessee, I know you got a new defensive coordinator in there with Jim Knowles, and we'll have to see how all this works out. But man, if he were to come back, you've got Ty Redmond, Ricky Gibson, and you've got Colton Hood. You got three corners that you feel really, really good about. Could one of those guys shift inside and play star? Colton Hood was going to play a little bit of star this year before all the injuries to Jermod McCoy. Well, you would think if Jermod McCoy came back and you didn't lose Ricky Gibson, you thought Colton Hood could play a little bit of star for you, but he had to play every single snap at corner. Potential at star there. New look defense, we'll see how all that works, but of course Colton Hood has a decision to make. He could declare for the NFL draft. We'll see what he wants to do. And then, of course, Lance Hurd. Lance Hurd, I think, has got a decision to make. I think he had a really, really nice bounce back year. He would get drafted if he wanted to come out this year, in my opinion. I don't think that he's like among the top 10 offensive tackles on anybody's list right now. I think he's trying to receive some of that feedback, some evaluation from the NFL. But Lance Hurd is another one of those guys that will have a decision to make. He is not listed among Mel Kiper Jr.'s top 10 at the offensive tackle position. Colton Hood is listed at number 6 in terms of corners. Seniors who don't have to declare for the NFL draft, but they'll probably make a graphic anyway at some point. Seniors who will be going and participating in the NFL draft or doing all they can during pro days and all that to get drafted. Joshua Josephs, who comes in as the number 7 outside linebacker, according to Mel Kiper Jr. And Miles Kitselman, tight end, who didn't rank inside the top 10 of the tight end, but came inside the just missed out category over at ESPN.com. You look at some of the updated Music City Bowl opt-outs. Well, those 3 that have already declared for the NFL draft, they will not be playing in the Music City Bowl. Arion Carter, Chris Brazzell, and of course Jermod McCoy, who hasn't played all year. 2 notable ones from Illinois that have made decisions to opt out and to not play in the Music City Bowl. That is offensive tackle J.C. Davis, who was a really good tackle for him this year. Starting left tackle, one of the highest graded guys they have on the offensive line. He has opted out. And Gabe Yakas, who is a once upon a time former Tennessee Target, who just so happens to be tied for the Big Ten lead in sacks at 11.5. Those 2 guys have notably opted out from the Music City Bowl at this time. All right, so we'll continue to update that as the days go along. Will anybody else declare for the NFL draft? Will anybody else opt out of the Music City Bowl? We will discuss all that right here on Locked On Vols as the time comes. When we come back, let's break down some new contracts for Tennessee offensive coordinator Joey Halzle and Tennessee passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. That's a new title for Kelsey Pope. How much money are those guys set to make, and who is now on the only one that is on an expiring deal on the Tennessee assistant coaching staff? That's coming up next right here on your Monday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, something personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aurora Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's the way you share memories, because Aurora isn't your average picture frame. You can preload frame photos before you gift it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. It's the perfect gift for your parents, for the grandparents, for some newlyweds, for yourselves. We have one in our kitchen, and we love it. Our parents have one. We upload pictures of our son. They show up on my parents' frame. They upload pictures of their other grandson, my nephew, and they show up on our frame. It's really, really cool. Plus, they have up to 30 seconds of live video that you can upload through the Aurora app. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. It is a huge win. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting AuroraFrames.com to get $35 off Aurora's best-selling Carver mat frames, named number 1 by Wirecutter by using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is AuroraFrames.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames are going to sell out fast, so order yours today in a limited time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions, they do apply. Check it all out today this holiday season. Hey guys, welcome back into your Monday morning Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols part of your morning routine, your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Every day, you guys are the best. Don't forget, mailbag edition of the show is coming up tomorrow, so plenty of questions I'm sure you guys have. Tennessee football, basketball, recruiting, football, coaching staff, all that and more. I'll do my best to answer them here on the show tomorrow, so send those into _Cain or at Locked On Vols. Comment on the YouTube channel as well for the mailbag edition of the show. That is coming up on tomorrow's Locked On Vols. Okay, so I squeezed this in at the very end, at the tail end of the bonus show that I released on Friday, talking about Tennessee's 2026 schedule. So if you didn't listen to the show, I put out 2 episodes on Friday. The second one was reacting to the schedule release that dropped late on Thursday night, 8 o'clock on Thursday night. So if you want to go back and get my reaction to that, go check it out. But I dropped this at the very end of that show because that's kind of when news was happening in real time. Tennessee has agreed to new contracts with offensive coordinator Joey Halzle and wide receivers coach, who now is a passing game coordinator, in Kelsey Pope. Joey Halzle now goes to a 2-year deal. He's set to make $1.45 million annually, and his deal is going to run through January 31st, 2028. So he's making $1.45 million on a deal that's going to run through January 31st, 2028. Joey Halzle was making $850,000 a year on his old deal. Kelsey Pope, who picks up the title of passing game coordinator, he is moving on to a 2-year deal that runs through January 31st, 2028, and he's going to make $800,000 this year $850,000 next year. So $800,000 in 2026 and $850,000 in 2027. I think I can speak for everybody with saying that, man, well-deserved. That is well-deserved. Kelsey Pope has coached his tail off. Chris Brazzell, again, led the SEC in receiving this year. Braylon Staley was like 7th in the SEC, led all FBS freshmen in a number of different categories. SEC Freshman of the Year by both the coaches and the AP. Mike Matthews had over 700 yards receiving, the first time in Tennessee history. A trio of wide receivers have all accumulated over 700 yards receiving. And, on the recruiting trail, Tristan Keys, Tyree King, I think, was a great evaluation. I think he's one of the more underrated guys in this class. He's got some wins on the recruiting. Mike Matthews a couple of years ago. I mean, he's got some wins. Travis Smith is, one that nobody talks about. That was a top 60 recruit at the time. Like, he's had some big wins on the recruiting trail for sure. And so I think I could speak for everybody when I say job well done and well-deserved to Kelsey Pope for sure. And Joey Halzle. Like, I know everybody, fan, again, I say it every episode, fan, fanatic. A lot of people aren't happy with Joey Halzle and the offense and all that. But, I mean, fact of the matter is, Tennessee found its explosiveness again this year. Tennessee didn't run it as well as it has in years past. Still over 2,000 yards rushing. But the explosiveness was back in this offense. And sure, a lot of it's a quarterback and Joey Aguilar, more so than Nico Iamaleava or Joe Milton. But, I mean, give credit to the offensive coordinator, right? I mean, he's helped in the development of a quarterback that got here in May. He's doing all the game planning. Obviously, a big part in calling plays on offense during game days as well. And so Joey Halzle gets a bump in pay up to $1.45 million. And again, I know a lot of fans are going to like that, but facts of the matter is the explosiveness in the Tennessee offense did return after being completely non-existent. I mean, I've got the numbers to show you because I just sent them to Zach Blackerby at Locked On Auburn, looking at the explosiveness numbers and how Tennessee's been in a drought from 2021 to 2022, from those 2 years with Hendon Hooker and Alex Golish, from 23 to 24 with Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava. So those two guys get new deals, okay? And now you look at what the staff looks like in terms of contracts right now. And this does not mean that all these guys are going to be retained. I mean, facts of the matter is Tennessee has a new defensive coordinator. His name is Jim Knowles. He is going to have a big hand in filling out his defensive staff. So I'm sure some of these guys will be held over. I would be shocked if all these assistants are held over on the defensive side of the football. So just because they're under contract does not mean they're going to be retained as Tennessee goes into a new direction. Having said that, though, here's what the assistants look like, and Josh Heupel as well. Josh Heupel, the head coach, is making $9 million, and he is under contract through January 31st, 2030. Jim Knowles, who was just hired from Penn State to be Tennessee's new defensive coordinator, he is making $2 million this year, and of course there's an escalator there we talked about last week, and he's under contract through January 31st, 2029. Joey Halzle is making $1.45 million, and he's under contract through January 31st, 2028. The others who are under contract through 2028, January 31st, 2028, are Glenn Ellerbe, who's making $900,000 a year as the offensive lines coach, Kelsey Pope, who's now the passing game coordinator, and wide receivers coach. He's making $800,000. I say Glenn Ellerbe's making $900,000. Kelsey Pope's $800,000. Evan Crabtree, special teams coordinator, $250,000. Alec Ablin, tight ends coach. Now we're getting into 2027s. These coaches are under contract through January 31st, 2027. Alec Ablin, tight ends coach, $375,000. Jarrell Sims, running back coach, $425,000. Willie Martinez, defensive backs coach, $540,000. LaVorn Harbin, Coach Chop, $375,000. And William Inge, $795,000. So those guys are under contract through 2027, January 31st, 2027. That's William Inge, Coach Chop, Willie Martinez, Jarrell Sims, Alec Ablin, Evan Crabtree, Kelsey Pope, Glenn Ellerbe, and Joey Halzle are under contract through January 31st, 2028, and Jim Knowles recently under 2029, January 31st. The only current assistant that is on an expiring deal now is Rodney Garner, who makes $900,000 a year, and his contract runs out at the end of January 31st, 2026. So I would assume, Jim Knowles seems like Rodney Garner, those two personalities would kind of mesh. Maybe they don't. Again, it's old school, tough, hard-nosed, tough love, that type of stuff. Maybe you can't have two of those guys on the same side of the ball. I don't know. But it feels like those two guys, their personalities would mesh very, very nicely. So I'll be intrigued to see. And again, I feel like any defensive coordinator in the country would love to have Rodney Gardner on the defensive line, right? So we'll see what happens. But Rodney Gardner, to my understanding, is the only assistant that is on an expiring deal now. Inge, Harbin, Martinez, Sims, and Ablin through January 31st, 2027. Crabtree, Pope, Ellerby, Halzle, January 31st, 2028. Knowles, January 31st, 2029. Josh Heupel through January 31st, 2030. Kurt Smith, the strength and conditioning coach, is also on an expiring deal. He makes $475,000 a year. His contract expires at the end of January 31st, 2026. So will be intriguing to see kind of what this defensive staff looks like. Jim Knowles should be introduced in a press conference setting sometime in January. I would assume sometime in January, and then the new additions to his defensive staff, if there are any. Again, I'd be shocked if there's not. They will also be introduced at that time as well. So Tennessee usually likes to kind of do this all together, and that makes a whole lot of sense. So that's going to come up later in January. All right, that's kind of where we stand in terms of contract extensions. Joey Halzle, Kelsey Pope got contract extension, new deals at the end of last week, and they are being well compensated for the work the offense, specifically the wide receivers, have done this past year. When we come back, who have been some breakout freshmen on the defensive side of the football? These are pretty easy, in my opinion. We'll discuss how good Ty Redmond is and is going to be for Tennessee football when we return right here on your Monday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. NFL Sundays, they move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds every dime, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, maybe defensively for a takeaway. FanDuel lets you jump into that moment as live spreads and money lines adjust accordingly. Player props update as guys start to heat up, and you can bet on the next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps everyone locked in, every snap, every drive, every single possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you with FanDuel. We got a final segment left here on this Monday morning Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and joining us here today. Never goes unappreciated that you guys could be listening to literally anything, but you're listening to me for some reason, watching me, so I do appreciate that. It just goes to show you how much you love the University of Tennessee, and hey, I'll take it. That's okay. We talked last week a little bit about breakout freshmen on offense. Let's turn the page and do breakout freshmen on defense from this past year. And anytime you want to talk about a freshman breakout, really on both sides of the football, we're going to, well, I guess if you don't count red shirts, but we are counting red shirts, so never mind. That thought is mute. Ty Redmond on defense, right? I mean, it was a disaster that Tennessee was starting the season before you knew that he wasn't ever going to play without Jermod McCoy, your first-round pick, All-American from the year before. And then 19 plays in, your returning starter on the other side, Ricky Gibson, he's gone. And so you're already replacing Jermod McCoy with Colton Hood that you picked up just like Joey Aguilar in the spring transfer portal window, right? And now you're picking up a true freshman. And not just he's going to play a little bit. I mean, he's playing literally almost every single snap of the football game. He tallied the second highest snap total of any defensive player, only second to Colton Hood. Ty Redmond played a ton this year, and he's going to be so much better for it. They picked on him a little bit. Georgia picked on him. Kirby Smart picked on him, right? Mike Bobo picked on him. Why wouldn't you pick on him? But I'll tell you what, the last half of the year, and sure, there were some Oklahomas in there. There were some New Mexico States in there. There were some DJ Lagways in there. But Ty Redmond was better for it in the back half of the season. He started to play some really good football, right? Ended up leading the team with 3 interceptions, led the team with 10 pass breakups. He was targeted a team-high 70 times through the air. Colton Hood was targeted only 53 times through the air. Ty Redmond was targeted 70 times through the air. As a true freshman, again, he tallied the second most snaps on defense, 726 snaps on defense in 12 games played. 726 snaps in 12 games played. Pro Football Focus graded him out at 77.6. He saved his best play for the final month of the year. Again, as I mentioned, grades of 75, 88.1, and 75.2 in games against Oklahoma, New Mexico State, and Vanderbilt. He's going to be a really good player. And again, you're going to get Ricky Gibson back, okay? You're bringing back Ty Redmond. If Colton Hood decides to come back, boy, you are feeling really, really good about your options at cornerback moving forward. But again, we'll see what Colton Hood decides to do. But because of the injuries, Ty Redmond, who they loved in fall camp anyway, I don't think anybody envisioned him playing the role that he did this year. But he turned out to be pretty good towards the end of the year, and he's going to be really, really good for it. Secondly, let's stay with the true freshman here. Let's go to linebacker Jaden Perlotte. He didn't play a ton of snaps this year, but he started making an impact on the defensive side of the football, played himself into the rotation, and again, he found himself around the football a ton this year. He really started to play a lot the final 6 games of the season. Had a nose for the football, recovering fumbles against Alabama and Kentucky. He finished the year with 13 tackles, touted a career-high snap total of 38 snaps in a win against Kentucky and against New Mexico State. We'll see what it looks like. And again, Arion Carter's declared for the NFL draft, so Jaden Perlotte is going to have to play a lot more snaps anyway. We'll see if Tennessee elects to go to the transfer portal or anything, but I think no matter what, guys like Jaden Perlotte expected to take a massive step from this year to next year. And again, he didn't play a ton of defensive snaps, but he worked himself into the rotation, and he added something that I don't think was there this year. Explosiveness and really just a hard-hitting mentality, right? I mean, I thought that he brought something that we hadn't seen at the second layer all year long. Now, he went around a lot of times and did the wrong thing, and that's fine. You're a true freshman. You're learning on the fly. Once he hones in his skills, continues to get a full grasp of the playbook, which is now changing, and everybody's going to have to learn a new system and new terminology and new verbiage with Jim Knowles. I think Jaden Perlotte can be really, really good in a 4-2-5 scheme. Let's stay at linebacker, and let's go to Edwin Spillman, who is a redshirt freshman, but he still counts. And Edwin Spillman would have played a massive role for Tennessee on defense in 2024, if not for a broken hand, and then he had he had some other type of injury as well. He missed a ton of games. Only played in 3 games. Played against Vanderbilt, played against Oklahoma, and then played in the I think he played against Ohio State in the college football playoff. But he would have broke out potentially last year. But because of the injuries, he missed a lot of games. But I mean, I count Jeremiah Thielander, Arion Carter, and Edwin Spillman as starters at linebacker, right? Because Edwin Spillman was usually the first guy off the bench in the 4-2-5, or if they were running a 4-3, he'd be in there. But to match 12 personnel. But he ended up, I think I've got the snap count somewhere around here. Yeah, he played just as many snaps pretty much as Arion Carter, who had 477, and he actually played more than Jeremiah Thielander at 474. So he ended up playing the season. I didn't list these down here. That's really annoying. Anyway, he played more snaps than Jeremiah Thielander at 474 and just as many as 477 with Arion Carter. So those 3 really played about even snap count pretty much throughout the year. He led Tennessee with 74 tackles on defense. Actually, that ranked second on defense for Tennessee. He graded out at a respectable 76.7 per Pro Football Focus, 3.5 TFLs. He had 2.5 sacks, 1 interception. He had 2 pass breakups. He had 3 quarterback hurries, formerly of Lipscomb Academy, and I think he's only going to get better. I think he kind of turned a corner midway through the year where he was kind of all over the place early in the season. He was going to play a ton, but I think he started to kind of understand and learn the linebacker position as the year went along. Again, only played in 3 games last year, so this year was kind of like his first test in terms of being out there on a week-by-week basis. So I thought he did a really good job. Those are the 3 guys that I thought broke out defensively for Tennessee that were freshmen this year. Redshirt freshman Edwin Spillman, freshman Jaden Perlotte, and freshman cornerback Ty Redmond. All right, fun show here today. Appreciate you guys for being here, turning into Locked On Vols. Check out tomorrow's show, Tuesday's show, where we'll answer your mailbag questions. We'll continue to talk about the biggest news around Tennessee football. We'll continue to evaluate the Jim Knowles hires, but more importantly, we will answer your questions. So go ahead and send those in at _Cain at Locked On Vols for sure. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Vols on your podcast app, completely free, and on YouTube so you can get the latest episodes. You can follow me on Twitter Instagram, all that and more at _Cainer, and at Locked On Balls TikTok as well. If you're on Facebook, check out Cainer on Air. I post these reels, I post stats, I post some updates on there as well. Exciting new opportunity. We've launched an Everydayer Club for $5 a month or $50 a year. You get all the shows ad-free, exclusive access to Locked On Discord channel, and exclusive access to Locked On Sports Today and the Locked On National Show. What are you waiting on? Check that out as well. That is the Everydayer Club. We'll be back tomorrow, mailbag edition of the show, and so much more right here on your Tuesday Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys.